So, Australian history is all a lie, like all of it. And it's crazy how easy it is to prove that because the holes in the story are just like everywhere. For example, the traditional story in Australian history is that by the mid 18th century, there are so many convicts in Britain that they just don't know what to do with them all. They had these big ass river barges, the convict hulks in the River Thames, just brimming with convicts, absolutely stuffed with thousands and thousands of prisoners. And eventually the problem is so bad that they decide to just send them all to Australia to solve this massive convict problem, right? That's the traditional story. But wait a minute. That story doesn't make any sense. What kind of society has so many criminals that the only solution is to ship tens of thousands of your own citizens to another continent? Really? And like all colonial history, the whole thing starts to fall apart the moment you start digging and asking that all-important question, why? Why are there so many convicts? Why are people facing capital punishment for stealing? Why is there so much crime? And the answer is, there isn't. The entire crime wave is completely manufactured. 18th century Britain is no better or worse than any other country in terms of crime. But do you know what Britain does have a lot of in the 18th century? Colonies. Hundreds of them. The British Empire stretches all the way to the other side of the world. And no one wants to go there. I mean, if I told you we are colonizing Mars tomorrow to go pack your bags and get in the damn rocket, would you do it? Of course not. Why would you? Your whole life is here on Earth. You like the cafes here. All your friends are here. You would tell me to go to hell, right? Well, so did most of the British peasants in the 18th century. They were happy right where they are, thank you very much. So, if all the poor people won't uproot their entire lives to go serve the interests of the colonial companies and the colonial investors, what do you do about that? Well, you drop the carrot and you pick up the stick, of course. You change the penal code to make ridiculously harsh sentences for even petty crimes. You tell people that even stealing is now punishable by death or life imprisonment. That is, of course, unless we can come to an agreement. Like, say, dropping the death penalty in exchange for you, becoming a colonist. The point is, Australia didn't become a colony to solve the convict problem. The convict problem was invented to solve the colony problem. And that revelation alone completely changes colonial history. It means it was always about the profits of the rich, as all colonial history ultimately is. And it is yet another example that just below the surface of all the fantasy colonial history we are taught lies much darker truths, truths that shaped and created the modern world, truths that are not taught to us for a reason. Anyway, I'm halfway through making the latest Triplo podcast episode on Australian history, incidentally, and I'll be deep diving on all this, but I just wanted to share that little nugget with you now as a bit of a teaser. And hopefully it's given you something to think about.